Well, it is bad news for everybody. We call him in Jerusalem the butcher of Tehran because of his track record of human rights violations. He himself had speared the killing of thousands of innocent Iranians, and he was very proud of it at that time. He's under the sanctions of the US, and we are worried about what it means for the future, not only with the nuclear ambitions of Iran, but also the hostility of their proxies. As we speak, in the last few hours, Hezbollah, the proxy of Iran in Lebanon, sent dozens of rockets into Israel. That is a sign. It is a sign that Raisi, with his radical leadership, will continue to spread terrorism in the region. And I hope that the US will not run to negotiate with this guy.
Well, we've heard that President Biden would like to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal. How does this change in leadership impact that effort?
Well, first, I cannot understand why. I cannot understand why the U.S. is racing back to the JCPOA when we all know that the Iranians are lying to us. I cannot understand why the Europeans, Emma, they sent a representative to the inauguration. They sent a high official from the EU to take part in the ceremony. And it was embarrassing for the European people that they were actually taking part in the inauguration, sitting with leaders from Hezbollah, Hamas, all those notorious terrorist organizations. So I think the US should do exactly the opposite. They should put more pressure and stick to their policy to demand that those kind of human rights violators will not be negotiating with, but you will be dealt in a much more sophisticated way.
You mentioned the Hezbollah rockets in Israel. Tensions in the Gulf have been high as well. Iran-backed forces seized a tanker in the Arabian Sea, Iran denying it. What do you think needs to happen to really curb tension in the region?
So we know that the Iranians are testing the administration in Washington, the new government in Israel. You mentioned the incidents from a few days ago, but last week there was an attack against an Israeli vessel in the Arabian Gulf using UAV technology. And we can say it for sure. We have the technology to prove it, that it came from Iranian, so they cannot deny it. I think we have to speak with them in the language they understand, to apply sanctions, to be stronger. And the last thing we want to see, and I say we, it's not only us in Israel, it's the Emirates, the other Gulf countries. We want to see that the US and Europe are not racing to another bad agreement, but actually doing the opposite, putting more sanctions against this radical regime.
Yeah. You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.